Alright, Section 8 Troubleshooting. Victor Cutting, Heating, and Welding Guide. Alright, Section 8 Troubleshooting. Ideal cut profile. Characteristic quality. Produce with a smooth finish that requires little and any additional cleaning. The edge of the plate were clean, square, and free of slag. Cutting too fast. Characteristic travel is pretty fast. Too top edge plate will relatively clean. Considerable slag adhere to the bottom of the edge of the plate. The guidage also occur with a pronounced drag line slant away from the direction of the cut. Root cause oxygen jet is trailing for the insufficient oxygen reaching from the bottom of the cut. Tip of the plate distance is too high. Characteristic when cutting this too far from the plate with the top of the edge of the showing the sign of the being blown away. That's similar to the effect of the too much oxygen pressure while the rest of the plate appears satisfactory. Root cause preheating is not focused on the plate surface of the oxygen jet is easily distributed. Oxygen flow characteristics or oxygen flow high. Characteristic when the cutting oxygen pressure is too high, the excessive pressure causes the oxygen string to expand, entering the plate with the cut at the top of the edge of the plate with uneven dish out. The plate face is relatively smooth and free of pits. If the gouges slag is minimal, the sound of the cut is exceptionally loud. Root cause turbulence between the preheating flame and the cutting jet. Section 9 Specification Warning. At no time should the withdrawal of the rate of the individual cellophane cylinder exceed 1/7 of the cylinder contents per hour. If additional flow capacity is required, use the cellophane manifold system sufficient size over the supply of the necessary volume. Warning: high gas withdrawal rates require with the manifold system the sufficient size of the supply of the necessary volume. High gas withdrawal rates may also require use a vaporizer. Caution: always make sure the equipment is rated with the side of the tip has selected the tip of the switch for the capacity of the equipment to start with the choke with the tip of the cup. The overheating of the head of the backfire may result with a unique, genuine Victor cut skill firepower cutting tips. Welding nozzle, multiple flame nozzle to ensure leaking free connections or balanced equipment. The note approximately gross the BTU foot cubed, acetylene 1470, butane 3374, natural gas 100, 1000, propane 2458, methane 1000, propylene 2371, welding flow data, metal thickness, tip size, drill size, oxygen pressure, minimum, maximum, silicone pressure, silicone consumption, LPM, minimum, maximum. Alright, MFA heating nozzles, tip sizes, silicone pressure range, PSI gauge, oxygen pressure range, PSI gauge, silicone cubic feet, minimum, maximum, oxygen cubic feet, minimum, maximum, BTU hours. Type 55 nozzles not for use of silicone. Type tip size, oxygen pressure, PSI gauge, fuel pressure, PSI gauge, consumption, SPH, SCHF, oxygen, fuel gas, BTU hours or joules an hour. NFM heating nozzle, tip size, propane pressure range, PSI gauge, oxygen pressure range, PSI gauge, propane feet cube an hour, minimum, maximum, feet oxygen feet cube, minimum, maximum an hour, BTU hours or joules removed. Cutting tip, preheating cutting orifice, drill size, tip orifice, cutting oxygen 1 and 100, 3 and 100, 1 and 104, 3 and 110, 5 and 110, 1 and 11, 1 and 29. 3 and 200, 500, 200, 1 and 117, 1 and 118, 3 and 118, 1 and 208. Alright, cutting, heating, and welding guide types 101, 301, oxyacetylene, minimum thickness, millimeters, tip size, cutting oxygen pressure, PSI gauge, low flow, SCFH, preheating oxygen, PSI gauge, silicone pressure, PSI gauge, flow, SCFH, speed, IPMs, curve width, inches, type 30M, 303 MP, GPN, and GPB, minimum thickness, tip, surface of cutting oxygen, PSI gauge, flow, SCFH, preheating oxygen, PSI gauge, preheating fuel gas, pressure, PSI gauge, flow, SFH, speed, IPM, curve width, inches. Note that above that apply to all torches of the following exemptions: torches M2300 series and MT300 series. Welding guide types MHTMP, minimum thickness type of the side of the pressure PSI gauge, NF SFH, cutting oxygen, preheating oxygen PSI gauge, flow SCFH, preheating fuel gas pressure PSI gauge, flow SCFH, speed IPMs, curve width, and types HPM. The torch data applied with the following exemption except for the MT309 torch. 8 types HPM, MPM, metal thickness, tip size, cutting oxygen, PSI gauge, flow, SFH, or preheating oxygen, PSI gauge, flow, SCFH, preheating fuel, gas, PSI, and pressure, ASI, SCFH, speed, IPM, curve width, inches. That apply with the torch with the following exemption: MT200 and MT300 series. Alright, the glossary. This section is explained with the meaning of the terms commonly used with the welding industry, technical and engineering terms have been supplied. Silicane is a gas compressed with 2 parts of the carbon, 2 parts of the hydrogen with a burn with the atmosphere oxygen produced with the highest flame temperature obtainable. Silicane center, see figure 2. Silicane regulator valve that reduces the cylinder pressure with the high port to torch pressure to keep the pressure constant, but they are never to be used with the oxygen regulators. Used as oxygen regulators. Alloy, metallurgy, mixture of the metal substance with a mixture of 2 or more metal for the metal or of the metal of the non-metallic metal. Annealing softening metals by heat treating this mostly commonly considered for the heating with the metal to the critical temperature, then cooling them slowly. Abbreviation: American National Standard Institute, AWS, American Welding Society. Axis of the weld, see welding axis. Backhanding, welding technique of the welding torch directing opposite with the progress with the welding bead. The type of the welding composed of one or more string weave. The beads are deposited with an unbroken surface. Bevel and angular edge preparation. Successful welding edge in part with the joint with the butt edge of the joint will occur require with the beveled edge to allow the adequate deposition with the penetration of the weld. Strength requirement of the joint dictate the actual joint design required with the belt, but with the welding, 3/8 of an inch or thicker other requires some of the sort of the edge preparation before welding. Blowpipe, another term used for the torch. Bond, to join by applying heat, sometimes with the pressure, sometimes with the intermediate of the filler metal with having a high melting point. Braze welding, a welding process variation, filler metal having liquid is above the 840 degrees Fahrenheit, below the deciduous of the base metal with the issue that unlike the brazing welding, the filler metal is not distributed into the joint capillary action. Brazing, when welding process that produces the covalent metal is heating them from the brazing temperature present with the filler metal having liquids above 840 degrees Fahrenheit, below the deciduous of the base metal with the filler metal with distributed between the closely fitted surface with above the joint capillary action. Build up surface variation, surface metal with the deposit with the achieve the required dimension. Burn metal with the term occasionally apply with the metal which has been combined oxygen so that some of the carbon exchange with the carbon dioxide, some of the iron of the oxide is into iron oxide. Burning, another standard term for oxygen cutting. Alright, a butt joint is a joint consisting of the 2 parts of the material that are placed squarely together rather than overlapping or interlocking. Capillary action, a phenomenon in which liquid surfaces arrive at the fall to become distorted in shape with where it contact with a solid. They call the difference between the relatively attraction of the molecules liquid for each of the other and those for the solid. Carbon, an element which is combined with the iron forms various kinds of steel. The steel changing carbon content with the chain with the physical property of the steel. The carbon is also used with the solid form with the electrode with the forms for arc welding are molded into the mold to hold metal. Carbonizing flame, an oxyacetylene flame is with excess for the silicane, also with a non-standard with a reducing flame. Carbonizing flame, non-standard with a reducing flame. Case hardening and avoiding over the carbon and for the mild steel object. Heating of the treating produce the hard surface of the casting metal formed of the produce the pouring molten metal into the shape contained mold. CGA, the abbreviation for the Grass Association. Concave fillet weld. Welding the concave face of the may result with a cracking cone. The conical part of the oxide fuel flame next to the orifice tip. The continuous weld, the weld that extends the continuous from one end of the joint to the other, where the joint is essentially circular and extend with the completely around the joint. Convex fitted weld. The fit weld and welding have the convex face with a good weld, but not no undercutting. Corner joint, a joint between the 2 members located at approximately right angles to each other forming an L. The cracking action with the opening of the valve slightly, then closing them valve immediately. Crown, a curved or convex surface of the finished weld served with a cutting torch. A device used for the gas cutting, controlling the gas for the preheating of the oxygen, used for the cutting of the material. Cylinder, cease the gas cylinder. D, Department of Transportation. Edge joint, a joint between the two or more parallel, near parallel members. Edge series, the new innovative product line with Victor equipment. Elongation, percentage of increase of the length of the specimen, which is faster than the yield of strength. Erosion, a condition caused by the dissolution of the base metal with a molten filler metal, with the resulting reduction of the thickness for the metal of the base metal. Face weld, C welded face, filler wire, non-standard welded wire, fillet with a welded metal with the internal vex over the corner with an angle formed with a two piece of the metal with a give it with a joint, adding strength to withstand the unusual stress. Fillet weld, the weld approximately triangular cross section with a joining two surface approximately to a right angle with each over the lap joint or T joint with corner joint, filter lens, a colored glass used in goggles, helmets, shield to exclude harmful light rays, flat position, welding position used to weld the upper side of the joint with the face of the welds, approximately horizontal flux, a cleaning agent used to dissolve the oxide, relief the trapped gas with the slag that can clean the metal with the welding soldering brave. The forging, the metallic shape of the delivery derived from either the hammering of the screed of the original piece of the metal with the desired shape of the thickness. Alright, forehand welding technique with the flame of the directive and then toward the progress of the fusion although the complete mixing between the two edges of the base metal will be joined between the base metal and the filler metal adding during the welding. Gas cylinder, portable container used for the transportation and storage of the compressed gas. Gas pockets, cavities in the welded metal that can caused by entrapping gas porosity, gouging. Material removal of bevel or groove. Alright, H, heated effective zone. The portion of the base metal that has been melted but mechanically properly in this microstructure has been affected by the heating of the weld and cutting or heating. Heat conductivity, speed, efficiency for the heat energy moved through the substance, horizontal position, the position in which the welding performed with the upper side of the approximately horizontal surface and against the approximal vertical surface. The hose flexible medium is used to carry the gas regulator with a torch constructed with a continuous layer of the layers of rubber neoprene material over the braided intersection. Hydrogen, a gas form with a single element of hydrogen, considered one of the most active of the gas. Combined with the oxygen, it forms a very clean flame. Inside corner weld, the two metals together, two metals fused together, one metal is 90 degrees on the other with a diffusion performed inside of the vertex angle. The intermittent weld, the weld with a continuity is broken, requiring unwelded spaces. Joint, the junction member of the edges, member of which are joined and have been joined. Joint preparation, the depth of the weld to extend with the face of the joint and with exclusion for the reinforcement. Lap joint, a joint with between the overlapping members in parallel planes. Layer, certain welded metal thickness that made with one or more passes. Lens, a C-filter lenses. Kindling temperature for the temperature at which the substance will catch fire and continue to burn also require the ignition point. Mixture chamber, the part of the welding torch cutting the torch with the fuel gas and the oxygen emits neutral flame, an oxy-fuel gas flame in which the portion used is neither oxidizing nor reducing. The NFPA, abbreviation National Fire Protection Agency nozzle, usually assembly consisting of the welding elbow, gas mixture, and a coupling nut. Orifice, opening through the which of the gas flow to the usual final opening control valve. The OSHA, Occupational Safety Health Administration, outside corner weld, fusing two pieces of the metal together with the fusing take place on the under part of the seam. Overhead position, the position with the welding is performed from the underside of the joint, overlap at the protrusion of the welding point and metal beyond with the weld of the welded root, oxidizing, combining oxygen with the other substances. For example, the metal oxidizing, the metal burned with the oxygen combined with the metal parts of the oxidizing fuel with the oxygen fuel gas fume has oxidizing effect due to the excess oxygen. Oxyacetylene cutting. Oxy-fuel gas cutting process used to burn metals beings with the reaction oxygen with the base metal with the elevated temperature, the necessary temperature to maintain with the gas flames, resulting in the combustion of the acetylene oxygen. Oxyacetylene welding. Oxy-fuel gas welding process to produce the fused metal with the heating with the gas flames obtained with the combustible acetylene with the oxygen. The process may be used with or without application of the pressure, with or without the use of a filler metal. Alright, oxygen, gas in form of the element oxygen with the oxygen very actively support for the combustion of the coal, burning of the oxygen, slowly combined with a substance called oxidization. Oxygen cutting process for the cutting of the ferrous metals by means of the chemical action with the oxygen elements of base metal with elevated temperatures. Oxygen cylinder, dangerous C gas cylinder. Oxygen hydrogen flame chemical combination with oxygen with the fuel gas hydrogen. Oxygen hose C hose. Oxygen light pressure. or liquid oxygen, liquid petroleum gas flame containing chemical combining oxygen with the fuel gas liquid petroleum oxygen regulator device to reduce the cylinder pressure of the board torch or to keep the pressure constant and never to be used with the gas cylinder regulator. A pass, see weld pass penetration, non-standard term of the joint preparation. PWG weld circular hole in one of the member of the joint fusing a member to another member. The porosity with the cavity type of the discontinuously formed with the gas entrapment during the solidification post heating. The application for the heating of the assembly from the welding cutting the heating of the pre-coating. Coating the base metal with the joint powder, soldering or brazing, preheating the application for the heat base immediately before welding or cutting. A puddle, the non-standard term for the welded pool. R. Reducing flame. The flame with the reducing effect due to the excess of the fuel gas reinforcement, welding reinforcement. Root of the weld root. See weld root. Slag inclusion, non-metallic solid metal trapped in the welded between the metal and base metal soldering. A group of the welding process soldering either the metal to join P for the metal, however the metal adding during the process of the also melting point lower than the work of the piece so that only the metal is melted and not workpiece soldering usually the metal with the melting point below 800 degrees Fahrenheit. The filler metal is distributed between the closely located the surface of the joint capillary action strain. The reaction of the object with the stress loaded and burst of them. The object strain is relieving. Even heating surface of the temperature below the critical temperature followed with the slowly even cooling. T. Tack weld. Weld made to hold parts with the weldment proper alignment until the final welds are made. T joint, a joint form of the placing one metal against another at an angle of 90 degrees. The edge of one of the metal contacts the surface of the other metal. Tensile strength maximum strength of the within the specimen capable with chaining. Throat of the weld distance of the welded root with the welded face. Tinning, a non-standard term for pre-coating. Tipping, an end of the torch with the gas burn creates the high temperature flame to regulate the direct flame. Toe of the weld, see weld toe, torch, see cutting torch with the welding torch. Undercut, a groove of the base metal adjacent, the welding tool, welded root and left unfilled with the welded metal. Vertical position, the position welding of the welding axis approximately vertical. Alright, welded access, line through the length of the weld, perpendicular to and geometric center of the cross-section welded bead of weld deposit resulting from a pass of weld face or exposed surface of the weld exposed over the welding was done. Welding, join again piece of the parts of some of the material of the heating of the hammering, used with the other pressure welding rod, filler metal with the wire or rod form, used with the gas metal with the prior process, those arc welding process for the which electrode does not provide the filler metal. Welding sequence in order to make the welds and weldment. Welding torch of device and the U for the cutting of the control of the gases. U for the preheating with the oxygen. U for the cutting of the metal with the welded wire. Metal wire with the melted with the attend with the welded metal to produce a necessary increase for the end piece thickness. Welded and accessible component with the parts joined together in welding weldment and the welded metal. Fusion portion of the base metal fused with the portion of the base metal and filler metal. Welded mass, welded pass, a single progression of welding surface along the joint and substrate with the result of the pass of the welded bead or layer, the welded pool, a localized full volume of the molten metal, as well prior to solidification of the yield metal, solidification of the welded metal. Welded reinforcement, welded metal excess of the quantity required to fill the joint. Welded root, the portion is shown with the cross section in which the back of the weld intersects with the base of the metal. Welded toe, the junction of the welded face and the made base metal. Yield strength, stress of the specimen assumed the permanent set. No other terms definitions may be found in the AWS A3.085. Later edition of standard welding terms and definitions available at AWS Miami, Florida, 33135aws.org. And then section warranty. Section 11, statement of the warranty. Limited warranty. The Thermodyne warns for the product with the free of the defects of workmanship of the material. Should any of the failures that conform with the warranty appear for the time period of applicable to Thermodyne with the product with the state below. Thermodyne also use the notification thereof of the substantiation of the product has been stored and installed with the operator with the maintained according with the Thermodyne specification, instruction, recommendation, recognized standard industrial practice is not subject to misuse and repair, neglect, alteration, accident, occurring, or acts such that defects to suitable repair with replacement. Thermodyne is sold. Option any component of the parts of the product determined by the Thermodyne to be defective. This warranty exclusive of the lieu of all other warranties expressed by the implied, including the warranty merchantability of the fitness of the particular purpose. Limitation of liability. Thermodyne shall not do under any circumstances liable to special consequent damage, especially if not limited to damage over the loss or purchase of the replacement of goods. Claims customers of the distributor here and after the purchase serve the interpretation remedy of the purchase that for the fourth and the exclusive liability. Thermodyne will respect to any contract, anything done with a connection with their will, with the performance, the breach of their over the from the manufacturer, sale, delivery, resale, with the use of any goods covered by the finish by the Thermodyne, whether they arising of the contract, negligence, strict report under any warranty, otherwise shall not, except for the expressly provided, but they here receive the price for the goods upon which such limited liability is based. The warranty becomes invalid in replacement of the parts and accessories which impair the safety and the performance of the Thermodyne product. The warranty is invalid if the product is sold with a non-authorized person. The warranty is effective at the time slave of the warranty schedule being with the day of the authorized delivery delivers the product of the purchaser. Warranty requires repairs and replacement claim for the unit of this limited warranty must be submitted to the authorized Thermodyne repair facility 30 days over the repair. No transportation of any kind will be paid with the warranty transportation charges. The same of the product authorized warranty and shall be responsible for the purchase of all return goods shall be purchased. The risk expense of the warranty supersedes all the previous Thermodyne and warranties. Then it goes into English, French, and Espanol. Sorry, the French and Espanol version. So that was once again. This is a reading from the Victor Cutting Heating Welding Guide, Oxy-Fuel Equipment, set up in safe operating procedures.